What's just the one thing, let's say they've published their book already, what's the one thing that you recommend doing every day to increase the visibility of their book?
Ooh, one thing every day, just one. Oh my gosh,
Mic
you're
drop.
challenging me right now.
This is the place to ask questions. This is the place to take notes. This is the place to learn strategy. Welcome to the Visible Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lewis, and this is the podcast you'll love listening to week after week. After a history in Hollywood, I know what it takes to get visible. And as an entrepreneur, you don't have to keep feeling frustrated and trapped, not able to get yourself out there. Myself, my guests, and even my family are here to lift you up, guide you, and give you powerful ideas so that you can get your unique voice into the online space. Ready? Let's do it.
And action.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today is about books. We're going to be talking all about books, and I could not think of anyone better to bring you than Angela J. Ford. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on.
I'm so thrilled that you're here, and we're going to get to why in a second. But for those of you listening that don't know her, you should. And this is who Angela is. She is an international best-selling author of the Four Worlds epic fantasy series, and she's a book marketing coach for fiction authors. That means that she helps indie authors with advanced book marketing strategies, which I love because it's one thing to create the book. It's another thing to publish the book. But then how do you get it out there to actually sell and build your notoriety? Huge pain point I know a lot of us have been through. So Angela is going to help us out with that. So Angela, fill up those blanks a little bit and let us know a little bit more about you and why you became an author.
Yeah, so I grew up reading. My parents really inspired me and my sisters just to read as much as possible, to expand our mindsets with words, and to really gain knowledge through books. And so I read everything from fiction to nonfiction. I read all kinds of genres. I just absolutely love reading. And the more I read, the more I realized I love the stories. I love hearing about people overcoming their challenges. I love reading about their journeys and their quests, whether it's something real life that happened to people or something that's actually in a book. So naturally, after reading all of those stories, I wanted to figure out if it was something that I could do myself. I was curious to see if I could write a story and what that would look like. And so when I was 12 years old, I started writing. I actually wrote my first epic fantasy novel at that age, and it was a fun experience. I mean, it wasn't particularly good, but my sisters read it and they enjoyed it, and a couple of my friends read it and they liked it as well. And that was really what got the ball rolling. I was really encouraged and motivated, and from there, I just started writing more and more, and it became just a natural exercise, just something that came very naturally. And I did that for years before I even published it. But that's really where it began. And I remember when I was in college, something that stood out to me, because when I was in college, I kind of thought that maybe it was time for me to grow up and get more of a real job and focus on something that will actually make money versus books, which there's a little bit of back and forth with that. But I remember I took an English class, and it was something that I absolutely had to take. It was something that the college required for every single student. It didn't matter what your major was, but you had to take two English classes and really focus on writing, because the thing is, writing is something that touches us in our lives regardless, no matter what. And so it doesn't really matter what kind of business you go into. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you are going to be doing some writing of some sort at some time. And so, because that was really important, those classes really focused on that. So I had to take a writing class. And I remember the professor talked about how writing is just something that's very healing and can be very therapeutic. And so when I took that class, it really resonated with me. And I realized this is why I write, because it not only helps others, but it also helps me. This is just one way of expressing myself and telling a story. And so that's why I write, and that's how I got started and why I continued.
I think that that's beautiful, and especially because you were so young. Like, that's incredible. I was up at my favorite coffee shop in the world is the Coffee Bean that's literally like 2 blocks away, right? I'm there every single day. And I always tell entrepreneurs, like, find your local coffee shop because you have to get out of the house.
Yes.
And I was up there and there's balloons out front. And I'm like, what's going on? And we walk in and there's literally a 10-year-old boy that they had like sponsored to come in so he could do book signings for his fantasy book series. And I look at Nathan, I'm like, Nathan,
Oh my goodness.
this
That's
kid is
amazing.
10 years old, but he's like, I can't even remember his name, but he was super known. Like, people ranging from children to like 50-year-old dudes were like in line to get these books signed. And I thought, what an incredible world, and what a beautiful, like, especially for his mom to like encourage him to do this and help him get it published. And like, he has a huge future ahead of him where a lot of people, like you were talking about, almost self-punish because they feel like that expression, that fantasy, that creativity, well, no, that can be your side thing, but go and get an education and da 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 da. And so I think it's incredible that you did that and that you listened to that. And so for anyone else listening, if you have an idea, if it's a regular just like autobiography book or if it's a fantasy, just go for it. It doesn't cost you anything to write, except maybe, a pen and paper, but it's pretty cheap. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's so true. And I love that it doesn't really matter what the age is. You can be so very young or you can be so very old, and it doesn't matter. You can write. You always have that in front of you. And I don't know why. I think society puts a lot of pressure on age and restrictions around your age and
Yes.
also around your education. Like, I don't have a formal education in creative writing, I don't have a degree in English, but it doesn't matter. It's something that anyone can do. It really doesn't matter. So I think it's really important to realize that the barriers that hold us back oftentimes are something that we create ourselves. And there's absolutely no need for that. We can absolutely go for it no matter what.
I totally agree. And for the people listening, the way that I found Angela was I was actually Googling like author, entrepreneurs, that kind of stuff, because my mom had decided to write a children's book. And it's so fun for me to see her express herself because she, it took this long for her to be able to build up that courage to write this really fun children's book. And it's a 4-part series. And so I found Angela and was like, Mom, this is the girl that you need to study. I always had such a good feeling about her. And for those of you listening, the journey that I want to go on today with the podcast is to get you more brave so that you write the book, but also to feel like you know what to do once the book is done. So,
Yeah.
my dear, let's chat a little bit about that process, because people go, okay, I write the book, then what? I publish the book, then what? So take us through a couple of strategies that you think have really been key for your books, and tell us about your books too. I want to know more about this fantasy series. It sounds really fun.
Yeah, so I'll just walk you through my process that I
Perfect.
take. So, really, with starting out the writing part, I think that can be one of the most intimidating parts because you're starting something new and you're starting on a blank page. And
Hmm.
it's just so easy to look at all the books in the world that are done and they're published and they're sitting right in front of you and go, like, my book will never measure up to that. But the point of the first draft is getting all of your ideals without editing, just like putting them down on paper and getting that out there. And so that's the very first thing. And then after that, I like to go through and read through everything I've written and get it to a level where I'm happy with it. So sometimes that includes deleting things, taking out scenes, moving them around. Other times it requires writing even more and really fleshing it out. And since I write fiction, one of the big things I focus on is a lot to do with characters and character development. And what I really want readers to see when they read the books is that the characters grow. They don't stay the same, but they're learning lessons as they're continuing through their life, as they're meeting other people. They're picking up, they're learning things, and they're increasing their knowledge. And at the end of the book, the reader really should see some growth there. They should see this is not the same person in the beginning of the book. Either they've stopped whining or complaining, or they're stronger, or they're actually brave and know where they're going. They know what they want now.
And I want to
Because
pause you right here because that is such a key point. And some people might be thinking, oh, well, I'm not writing fiction. But what she's saying applies absolutely if you're writing like a directional book, a motivational book. I just taught an ebook class in my mastermind, and I had just gone to Lori Harder's book signing event. And the same concepts were applied because when you're talking about making a character go through a transformative arc, the same thing applies if you're trying to help someone, like a self-help book. The reader, need to be going through that transformational arc themselves by seeing your journey and your instructions. So beautifully said. Continue, my dear.
I love that. And yeah, that certainly applies to fiction, nonfiction. It's so crazy how it can seem so different, but then the lines between fiction and nonfiction can be so blurred. So I'm really glad you brought that up. But yeah, so with that, after I'm happy with the draft that I've created, what I then do is send it to beta readers to read it. And so what they do is read it over and they go like, yeah, this is a story that I could see online and I would read it and enjoy it. Or they say things like, this is great, but then I got to this scene and I was confused. I don't know what's happening or why the character feels this way.
Mm.
Or, the writing, I didn't like the writing style. But they provide feedback on the very rough draft, and that helps me move forward and then take what I've heard from them and apply that to make it even better. And once it's
Absolutely.
to that point where it's really good is then that I send over to my editor for copy editing and proofreading. And so that's the process where they just go through line by line. They look at it and they say, okay, this is good. This makes sense. Or they kind of add in their notes and make changes. That makes it very readable.
Yeah.
Because that is the thing with books. We need that readability and then also to clean up the typos. And that's more of the proofreading is just that final polish before it goes live, just to make sure that it's as clean as it can possibly be.
And
And
what amazes me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but proofreading, you can, I can't tell you. So my mom would print out the book and she'd print out like 10 copies and give it to the people she trusted the most. And she'd ask me to read it like 2 or 3 times. And I'm a very like efficient person. So I want to be a one and done, but I'm like, okay, I love my mother. So I'm going to read this 3 times. Each time I would catch more typos that I did not see before. I'm telling you, it makes me crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's, I think, been one of the most valuable lessons, whether you're writing copy, whether you're designing a sales page, whether you're doing a course, if you're doing a book, like step away, come back, because the brain
yeah.
doesn't see things. Have you found that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. That's certainly true. Like I've read my books like 10 times and then like I can get it back from the editor and they're like, I found this, and this. I'm like, but I've read
And
it
you're
10
like,
times. I
nah.
did not see that. And then I'll go back over it again and again. I'm like, oh, okay, let me fix this thing. But that's one of the beauties about self-publishing is that if you do find those typos and you're freaked out about it, you can just upload a new file and that will go on sale and that's what people will get. And if they bought the
Absolutely.
ebook, it would actually update. Their ebooks will update. Next time they download it and read it, it'll have a clean copy. So that's just one of my things. I'm like, ooh, I don't want people to get typos, but you know what? I can fix it. Like I can be
Absolutely.
proactive
For
and
sure.
make that happen. So that's exciting. But yeah, so after I get it back from editing, then it's time to upload it and publish it. And one of the things that I really struggled with when I was first starting out was formatting. I did not know how to format a book for print or for ebook, but thankfully there's software out there that does it. I use a writing tool called Scrivener, and that will export kind of print ready formats. But I actually really like Vellum, which is another
Hmm.
tool that you can use. It's super easy. You can just import your file, and it will just spit out a print ready or ebook ready format and all the different kinds of formats you need. And so there are a couple of different formats because Amazon takes a different format than kind of the other ebook sites take. So if you're publishing on Amazon and Apple and Kobo and just the other sites, then you'll definitely want different files for that. It makes it very simple and very easy, so you're not pulling your hair out. You can also hire a formatter. There are a lot of people that actually go through and do book formatting as well. Um, but just
Fiverr.
yes, if you do hire the formatters and you find typos, you need to go back to them to fix that for you.
And I
Uh,
think that's the rub because my dad did all the formatting for my mom and it would take him forever. forever.
Mhm.
I have never personally formatted. I think I had to do it for one of her books for like a couple chapters. And I'm like, holy moly, how do you do this? It's a very involved process. So if you're listening, if you are a director personality, if you guys have taken my Hollywoodpreneur quiz, or you're a production designer personality, chances are you will be able to tolerate formatting your own book. You're more detail oriented, more like just sink into the submarine and get it done. If you're a writer personality or an actor personality, which means very compassionate, people driven, not techie, then don't do this, right? Hire someone, outsource it, because first of all, they're going to be able to do it so much faster than you, and they're going to have that attention to detail, because I mean, page indenting and all that stuff and EPUB and Mobi, it's just like, it's bringing me to tears thinking about it. So glad that you covered it both ways. Now we know how to do it ourselves, and the fact that we can outsource. Continue, darling.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up because I think it's so important with when you're going through the process of writing and publishing and that whole production period. If there's something that you're not good at and you don't know how to do it, just hire someone. It will just save you
Literally.
so much time and trouble. Just do that.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I think you've given us a really clear picture of creating the idea, writing it out, testing it out, and then getting it into print. And I think that there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you think that I'm wrong, but I think that there's a bit of a transition in our industry now where people, sure, they enjoy ebooks for when they're traveling, but in a way they want that hard copy. And I know for me, I've been ordering them more and more. I subscribe to Russell Brunson's Funnel University. And one of the biggest reasons is because I get this in the mail every month and I get to actually look through like successful funnels. And I love that. It comes in my mailbox. I walk home and I'm like, and I get really excited. So do you find that there's an increasing desire for the physical copy?
Oh, absolutely. It's so crazy. If you're not doing print books, you are leaving money on the table. Like, I have a shop on my website where I sell autographed copies, and I
Oh,
have to
cool.
keep them. I actually have to place another order soon for books for me to keep on hand because people order them like every single month. I had an order just the other week. Someone just ordered all 4 books, and I'm like, okay, I gotta autograph those and send them out. Like, people are buying them, and they buy them on Amazon as well. So it's not just directly from me. It's a little bit more expensive if they buy them directly from me, but they're
Sure.
autographed. They have that personal touch, and that's what
Yeah, of
people
course.
want.
Yeah.
So definitely there is that place like paperbacks or hardbacks are not going anywhere. They're still right here. You can still do it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that me and my publicists are going to be releasing a book together in July. And I think this episode airs actually in August. So you'll be able to pick it up. We can link that below. But there's just something really exciting. Oh, this is coming out in July, July 30th. So the book will be out. And it's been a really fun collaborative process. And I think it scratches a different kind of itch. You know, it's like, okay, you know, someone maybe takes your e-course or they're in your Facebook group and all of that's wonderful, but they also want to like have you on their bookshelf. Like behind me here, these are all friend entrepreneurs who have written books and I love that. It's just such an awesome thing. So yay. Okay. So we've talked about the whole production process. Now you have your book, either physical or digital, and you're like,
What do I do?
why aren't people buying? I don't understand. I just published it last night. I should have sold 100 copies by now. That's what we all want because we're all creative beings, of course, but that's not how it works. So, what are some key strategies that you think, like when I'd love to hear when you first launched your book, what mistakes did you make? What did you learn? And then what do you think have been the top key marketing tools for your success?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
Bam,
Well,
bam, bam.
I will take you back. You might have to remind me of some of the questions, but
All good.
I'll just take you back. In 2009, I published a very, very short novella and I put that online. I got it on Amazon. I did everything right. I put it in the Amazon has their Kindle Unlimited program, so I put it in that. And I was like, great, let's go. Let's sell all these books. And nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. And it was because I did not tell anyone about it. I wasn't doing any marketing. I wasn't telling people about it. So guess what? It tanked and I ended up unpublishing it because I was like, well, it's going nowhere fast. But it's only because I did not talk about it. So
Mm.
when I got ready to release the first book in my epic fantasy series, The Five Warriors, I released that in September of 2015. And what I did starting in July, I made it available for pre-order because I wanted people to see it. And the rule of marketing is if, it might take someone up to 7 times before they buy something. And that's a lot.
Mm. That's a
So if
lot,
I,
isn't it? That like makes you want to cry a little bit.
you have to see this 7 times before you buy it. And so I was thinking, like, what are the 7 different ways that I can make sure my book appears and people see it, but not necessarily in the same place? And
Mm.
so I ran ads on Facebook because I figured I did not have an audience and I was like, okay, well, this will be a start and ads will just show it to people. And I was like, I really don't expect my ads to do anything but let people see the book. And that was the goal. Just let it see the book. I don't care about that money. Just I want people to see it. So there's number one.
Hmm.
Then I set up a Facebook page, and pages are always a little bit different, but I started posting on that just to
Hmm.
help people see it, just so they would know that this isn't just a random person who's just running an
Right.
ad. There also are things happening. It's fun. I created a quiz to go along with it.
Beautiful.
So, which
Smart.
warrior are you most like? And so you have
Oh,
a quiz
smart.
as well. And so that's something that, it doesn't really matter. Like you can create a quiz for anything. It's fun.
Hmm.
But it worked really well with the book because people love to take quizzes. They like to know, like, ooh, what am I most like? Who am I?
Getting
And
that like identity with your product. Beautiful.
absolutely. So that's a door opener. So that was a third way. And then I started being visible in groups on Facebook, not necessarily talking about my books, but
Hmm.
just being visible in groups and just talking to people. And so if they wanted to get to know a little bit more about me and what I did, then they could click over and they could see, oh, she has a book coming out. And that worked. And that did amazingly well. That it really surprised me how well that did. I started being involved in different author groups. I started participating in those because people were finding me. They're like, "Oh, you have a book coming out. Well, you should come over to this group and like talk about that. And you can post, you can announce it when it comes out." And so that was just from being helpful and just starting a conversation or joining conversations. And so
Hmm.
you just never know from those conversations what will happen. Um, and then I started my email list. I built out a landing page on my website, just those different ways so that I could start bringing people full circle. And I think I also turned on a contest just to get people excited about that because it's just something free they can enter and they also see the book. They might buy it, they might not, but it's just a way to get people talking about it. And so all those different things got people talking about it. And then release day came and that was fantastic and amazing. And then after that, I was like, well, now what?
Now what do I do?
Because everyone
The
talks so
hype
much
is
about,
over, right?
yeah, everyone talks so much about the book release. And I was like, I don't know what to do now that the book is out. I know I have to keep talking about it and I have to keep marketing it, but I have to do it in a different way now because it's not a release. And
Mm.
so there are a lot of things I kind of wish that I'd known. I wish I'd known more about running ads and using those and actually getting a positive return on investment for that. That's one thing. I wish I'd known a little bit more about collaborating with other authors because I did not know too much about that. And so I spent like the next year just kind of just figuring out what to do. So I think those things are really helpful knowing about advertising and collaboration because collaboration is crazy. It's so awesome how well it does. So
You
so
know,
those
sorry to interrupt you. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just going to say a student of mine, her name is Debbie, and she released a book that was a total collaboration with like 10 other women. And it was a collection of short stories called Notes to My Younger Self. And
Hmm.
I thought that was a really smart way to start her authorship because A, it takes so much of the pressure off. Like, yeah, you're going to have to deal with a bunch of other people's voices and deadlines and all of that, but you don't have the pressure of having it all be you, and you also don't have the pressure of being the only one to promote because there's 9 other authors. And I thought, what a smart way to get started. And that's why I'm kind of glad that I'm starting with Kristen because we're both able to balance the load more. But I think that's really key. And I was thinking the other day, I was launching my Comfy on Camera challenge and I had a cute little video and all that. And I was going to post and I'm like, man, I wish that I could get this shared a little bit more. And then I sat there and I went, okay, who in this industry have I helped and lifted up? Like, who have I brought into my summits? Who have I like gone into their group and supported them or bought their thing or, shared their story and stuff? Like, why can't I just tag them in this video and say, hey, friends, if this is going to benefit someone in your group, share it with them? And that took a little bit of bravery for me. I don't know about you, but I always feel like, oh, I just have to serve, 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 serve. And so I never call upon any favors. You're smiling, so I assume you're the same way, yeah?
I was smiling because that's exactly what I'm like. I'm like, oh, I will help you out. I will do whatever it takes. And then when it comes to me, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you have time, maybe you could just like put a little link in there and say like, hey, this book is out. Maybe.
Yeah, so we're the same exact way. And so when I took that step, I went, you know what? And this is, I think, the crux of being visible. And I think that's why marketing is so hard for so many people, because you're really saying, hey, here's my thing. Hey, here's my thing. And a lot of us can feel kind of selfish and, no, I just, it needs to be found naturally. And that's why so many of us publish and then just sit there and stare at that Amazon page and don't understand why it isn't growing. So instead of having that perspective, if you're listening, what we're trying to tell you is if you're out there authentically engaging, if you're sharing people's stuff, if you're, sharing your favorite podcasts and being sure to lift other people in the industry up, it is totally fine to collect on that return in terms of just reaching out. And don't do like a mass PM or a mass email. That's gross. But it doesn't cost you anything to go into your Facebook Messenger to this friend. I'm going to use Angela for example. Hey, Angela, how you doing, girl? Blah, 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 blah. And then she'd probably be like, oh, hey, Michelle, what's going on? Da, da, da. Okay, awesome. So I have this book thing coming out. I'm a little bit nervous about the release, but I'm really excited about it. And I need like 10 people to just go through it and give me feedback. Is there any chance if I mail this to your house that you'd be interested? Most likely, she'd probably say, yeah, sure. Like maybe there'd be a future deadline. Like I can't get it to you in 2 weeks, but I can get it to you in 4 weeks. But coming to someone with that kind of a spirit, that's what this whole entrepreneur game is all about. And I think we forget that because we're so busy hiding behind our laptops and doing all the work that we forget about that connection. What do you think?
I could not have said it better. Like it is all about that. And that really is the biggest thing I learned from my most recent launch in April of 2018. It was all about the collaboration. And I found that if I needed something and I went and I asked for it, people were more than happy to come around and say like, yeah, like you help me out with this, more than happy to help you out with this, anything you need. And it was so refreshing. I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I ask for help earlier? Like definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. And I also want to say that sometimes it's not exactly, you might give and give to some people and they don't have the resources or the time to give back at the time when you need it. And that's okay. Like you can't be mad at those people. Like that's okay. It's going to happen. Not everyone that you give to will be able to reciprocate. And that's fine. The goal is just to, keep moving, keep going for those people that, giving doesn't hurt anyone. And if people aren't able to give back, that's fine. But don't worry about that. Keep going and keep focusing on the things that you need to get done and serving and giving and asking for help because that's very rewarding in and of itself.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about your online challenge. I took this myself and I loved the way that you did this. First of all, it was so juicy and it was so long. I thought like, oh, it's going to be like a 5-day challenge or whatever. It's like what, 21 days?
It was 30 days.
30 days. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, mom, you got to subscribe to this right now. And I loved it because what she does is she breaks down pretty much having a book launch, like getting it out into the world and the little things that you can start doing every single day. How did you come up with this? And have you seen a lot of growth from your followers taking this amazing challenge?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things when I first released and I came to my hard stop where I was like, launch day is over, now what? I was like, I cannot be the only person that's asking this question. There must be people out there who've been like writing and publishing books for years who are like, okay, now what? Now, what do I do next? How do I keep getting the word out about this? Because there are millions, if not billions, of readers in the world. And I know that selling 100 books is not reaching the people that I could be reaching. So
Hmm.
I have to keep pushing because they don't know about it. That's why they aren't buying it. They just don't know. And so I was trying to think, I was like, what are the things that are free that I can do to market my books? And what are the good paid options that I can do to market my books? And so as I was doing them myself, I was like, you know what? Other people can benefit from them. I'm just going to write it down and give it to them in like a 30-day course so that they can sit down and get it done. They can actually do it and feel like they're making progress with their book marketing versus just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So that was it was pretty crazy. It's kind
So
of low. I
good.
don't think I would ever do that again. But it's actually something that I need to update again because things change so much in the book marketing world that
Mhm.
like things always have to be updated and keep going and going and going. So I'll probably like update it, do a new re-release of it so people can learn a little bit more about marketing and getting the word out there about it. But it's fun.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what sold me on you for sure. And I thought it was brilliant because it was like, ordinarily, if I would have seen your book, like I'm not really a fantasy reader, so I probably wouldn't have purchased it. But also seeing that you would establish yourself as an expert by leading other people, other authors to get their stuff out into the world, I went, this girl is brilliant. And then giving away so much value in the challenge, I just went, okay, I'm a fan for life. Like that's it, right? So we're going to link that challenge below so that you can take that yourself because it's amazing. And then I want you to tag both me and Angela in a tweet or on Instagram and let us know what impacted you the most. And specifically if you love this episode, because I think this is super juicy. So
Awesome.
people that are out there and they're going, what's just the one thing, let's say they've published their book already, what's the one thing that you recommend doing every day to increase the visibility of their book?
Ooh, one thing every day, just one. Oh my gosh,
Mic
you're
drop.
challenging me right. I would say one thing that you should do every day is talk about your book. Just talk about it. And it doesn't have to be on, it can be on social media. It can be when you're out in a coffee shop, getting things done. Just talk about it. Tell one person about your book every single day, whether that's on Instagram or Snapchat or on Facebook, just whatever you do, just talk about it. Because I really believe that the reason authors don't sell more books is because they aren't talking about it. They aren't telling people, hey, this is available. Like, I don't know what I don't know. So you have to tell me.
So true. And I think like it doesn't cost you anything to take certain quotes from your book and then open up Canva, make a little graphic with your quote in there, throw that on social media. Like take your brilliance and take the key parts that you love and use that to sell it. Like, you know, and I think a lot of people are afraid of giving too much away. It's like, oh, I don't want to give, you know, my course away. I don't want to give my book away. And I'm like, how are people going to become fans if they don't know? So just take those quotes, go through your book in a weekend, write down 20 or 30 quotes, and you can fill up an entire month. And don't worry about giving everything away. Be excited that with the right hashtags and the right, you know, groups that you're posting in, that more and more people will be driven to buy your book. Exciting. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the gift that you're giving them today, Angela. You're giving them the epic book launch. Tell us what that is.
Oh, so those are the steps that I took for my very first book launch, just to make it amazing. And I was talking earlier about like the 7 different ways that you have to market to people in order to reach them. And that guide just walks you through the different things. It's how to plan a book launch, I think in 6 steps, but I gave you a little bit more. Just that's a
Love
secret.
it.
It's in there. It's really the 6 things that I did that made a big difference in my book launch that helped me actually sell books and continue to sell books, and make money every single month from my one book that was out. Um, and yeah, so that's it. So go through, read it, take what you've learned, apply that to your book launch, and whatever you do, don't stop talking about it.
Beautiful. And we're going to link all that below for your enjoyment, my lovely listeners. In the meantime, Angela, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for letting me stalk you and us becoming friends in this beautiful digital space. I'm so excited to watch you continue to grow. And I'm so thrilled for our listeners to be given actionable strategies so that they can get out of the discouragement of book launching and actually get excited about it again. So if you love this episode, reach out to us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, leave us a a review, tag Angela, let her know what really stood out to you about this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we have even more actionable episodes coming your way next week. When I first got started with my online business, I looked at people who were getting featured in places like Huffington Post and Forbes and Inc. and wondering how the heck did they do that, right? In terms of me, I grew up in film and TV, so the video part and the branding part was really easy, but landing the press seemed impossible. But then I met a girl named Kristen Marquet who became my publicist and showed me the exact steps to take in order to land places like Entrepreneur on Fire, Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Medium, Just Lex, the list goes on and on. It doesn't mean that I'm special. It means that we figured out a formula that works and we want to show you. Kristen and I have teamed up to write a book called Publicity Jumpstart, and we can't wait to share it with you. Get on the waiting list now. Order your copy today at publicityjumpstart.com, where we show you the top 10 ways to get your brand featured in the press. We can't wait to come alongside you in this journey. This is by far the most actionable entrepreneur book I've ever read when it comes to press, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on a copy. So go to publicityjumpstart.com and get yours today. I hope you loved this episode as much as I did. Now, we're all about building a tribe here at The Visible Entrepreneur, so be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and then head on over to the Facebook group. It's a great place where you can practice your video, live stream, and really enjoy the community that we have built. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next episode. Now get out there and get more visible.
That's a wrap.